Well, I appreciate you doing this. I know you've been a popular guy lately, so hopefully this keep it going for you. Keep your
Yeah, seems like
popularity up.
I've been running my mouth a lot lately. What's
That's a
up?
good that's a good thing, you know.
Yeah, I reckon so.
If they don't know your name, you're not doing something right, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, right. So,
How are you maneuvering? We kind of touched upon it earlier, but I want to specifically talk about your program because I like your dogs and I like some of the ideas that you have about your dogs and just the state of the bully as is. How are you maneuvering your own program with today's kind of trend?
well, that and that's that to be honest, that is the most worrisome part, really, to me. Um, in that, I have a particular type of dog that I want to breed, right? One that's healthy, one that's functional, one that definitely looks like a bully, but is not overdone to the point where it can't be a dog, right? And the market right now is so focused on the overdone dog, a lot of unhealthy dogs in a lot of ways. Um, just trying to put too much mass on a frame. And back when I first got started in bullies, I fell in love with a certain type of dog. That look, right? That and so that's what I'm sticking with. And of course, the biggest concern is that um, when you breed those type of dogs, right? Especially when you're relatively new, like I am. I mean, I just had my second litter this year, and even though I have a lot of knowledge, I'm still, I had some bumps in my program when we were first starting out that set us back, or we'd be further along than what we are, right? But that is what it is. But you worry about, man, I breed these dogs. Is anybody going to show up for them? Is the marketplace really going to respond? Uh, to this type of dog. And um, last year's litter when we did the photo shoot when they were about 11 weeks old, I would say that, I mean, they weren't big, heavy boned pups. I would say that maybe they definitely resembled a little bit more terrier like than bulldog like, right? As young puppies. And you know, um I ended up keeping. Now, I was fortunate that I had six females and two males, right? Out of a litter of eight. And I was had a deal with the breeder where we were doing a pup back thing. So he got a puppy, and Welper got a puppy, and that's how I paid her. She took a puppy. Um, I did sell two pups, and so I ended up, there were two females that I planned on selling that I couldn't sell, um, and I'm like, well, what do you do, right? You keep them, and man, about 9, 10 months, those puppies just blew up, man. That first pop, they just started to change, right? Those heads, I mean, one of those females passed away from pyometra, unfortunately, but I still have the three, and I mean, they're pockets, but very compact. very solid, really nice dogs, and it's like, you have to, people are in such a dadgum hurry. They don't want to wait for these dogs to develop. And I believe that you have to trust what you're breeding and that development will come along, right? But and it certainly has. I mean, let's see, what are we into now? We're 10, 5. They're 17 months old now. I mean, they're really coming into their own, and they're good looking, damn good looking dogs. And but at 11 weeks, I couldn't get $1,500 for one. So that vision that I have for my dogs, in some ways I'm ignoring the broader marketplace, right? As to what's hot and popular right now, right? Because as you well know, fads come and go, right? Used to be back in the day, blue dogs were popular. Then it was tri dogs were popular. Now it's fawn dogs are popular. And granted, that's a color thing, but that also goes to type in a lot of ways as well. Now, I will say that I hear a lot more discussion now, and almost like the wind is changing a little bit. There's a little bit of an undercurrent, right, of change of talking more about longevity and health within the community, right? So part of me is, I like to think that maybe I'm having some influence there, or at least I'm participating in that dialogue, right? And that it's making a difference because we do have way too many dogs that die too early. And truly, why would I want to breed dogs and sell an unhealthy dog to a family for it to die within 5 years? That's traumatic for a family or young kids and that kind of thing. And so, when I say I'm trying to breed healthy dogs, I test my dogs. I go through all these things to try to make sure that I'm breeding responsibly and breeding the best dogs that I can.
Is there a happy medium, or do you just go with what you have now and you just try to create your own marketplace?
Well, what they want, is they want a 14-inch dog that weighs 90 pounds that has a 26-inch head, and I mean, I have a dog with a 26-inch head, but he's 17 inches tall and he weighs 85 pounds, you know. And look, I had a male that was 16 inches tall at the wither, weighed 65 pounds, really nice looking dog, you know. And as far as the show ring goes, there was just not a place for him. He didn't have enough mass to compete in the pocket class, you know. And so I really see. So here's what I'm trying to do. I like my dogs around 15 to 17 inches tall. And so even though one champion female, Maggie, is 13 inches tall, first time we bred her, we had pups that range 14 and a half to 16 inches tall. Okay. So, and this next time around, I'm taking one of her daughters, two of the tallest ones, so even though they're pockets, I'm breeding them to standard males. Okay. So we're trying to get a little bit more height. And my females are very, 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 very compact. Okay. So the difference between the way a bodybuilder moves and say a track athlete, right? Completely different in the way that they move, right? So to me, a pocket dog with all the mass, they tend to kind of waddle, roll, maybe more of a bulldog rolling type movement as opposed to a fluid, forward reaching, driving off the rear kind of movement, right? Um, so that's kind of where the pocket class is at. Um, I do want to compete there, but I want to compete there at the upper end of the pocket dog for for that very reason, for movement, for the quality of movement, right? And athleticism in that dog. Now, huge market, from what I understand, in the in the micros, right? Below something below standard, right? But and look, there's a market for those dogs, but I breed show dogs, so I breed to the standard, right? So I'm not breeding for dogs that are out of standard. So micros kind of exclude me. I don't breed for that at all. So I'm trying to and even with my even with my standard line, I'm still trying to stay in that 17 and a half inch range. Now, 16 inches for a female is a standard, right? So with my males, my females, I really, if I had my preference, all of my dogs would be between 15 and 17 inches tall. And I would say between 70 and 95 pounds. Okay. Um, so with, a proportion for me is the most important thing. There's no point of having a 26-inch head on a dog that it just doesn't fit. You know what I mean? So balance and proportion are really my goals. Me personally, I don't like where the market is going. I don't like the focus uh, on extreme. Um, as we know, professional bodybuilders typically have a very short life, in relative terms to everyone else, right? Um, these dogs, the heart size doesn't change. You add all this mass and all these other things onto it, you just shorten the lifespan of the dog. And it's just not my goal. I want that happy in between. I would say, just I mean, there's no doubt I'll have dogs in what we call are you familiar with the classic class? So, dog that definitely has the bully head shape, but is not as heavily built, right? Um, it's we're liable to spend a lot of time in that class, and I'm perfectly okay with that.
I what is the classic? What's the difference between a classic and a standard?
Exactly the same in terms of height and the way the standard describes the dog, right? The difference is that the classic is not as heavily boned, not as and doesn't carry as much mass, okay? But otherwise, no difference between a classic and a standard dog as far as the standard goes.
Yeah, interesting because that's what I assume just by listening to people. But yeah, I don't. It's an interesting division there. I mean, you don't really
Well,
see
it
that.
is, and like I was talking about that pocket dog, 5, 8 years ago, that pocket dog, that male that was talking about, I think he would have done really well. I mean, look, a 65 pound dog is still not a small dog, you know? And, the older you get, the harder it is to move around them real heavy dogs. If you need to move them around, as my elbow can attest, and I just don't know. It's look when I see when I do see a nice extreme dog, it's kind of like when you see a bodybuilder walking, maybe in the grocery aisle at Walmart. Yeah, it catches your eye. You go, wow, or whoa, or you may be completely repulsed, depending on who you are, right? Um, but it's definitely going to get your attention, right? But to me, things that are extreme, whether that be on one side or the other, are just that they're outliers, they're anomalies, you know. And they want to push this breed in a lot of ways to the edge. And Dave Wilson, the president of ABKC, always talks about, you know, pushing them to the edge without them coming apart, you know. But the problem with our community is that we don't really have enough people that really knows what that means, you know, and they're just throwing a lot now. Not again, and I don't like talking in broad generalities, right? Um, there are many people who are trying to do it right, okay, but I see a lot of people that it seems to me like they have no clue. And I can tell you they have no breeding plan. I talk to I talk to a lot of people because I do the COI analysis and things like that. A lot of these people, they don't have breeding plans. They don't know what they're doing next. They don't know what their goal is. I mean, they've just not even thought about these things. They're just throwing dogs together hoping to make a few dollars. And it's such a bad approach to breeding dogs. It's very disheartening in a lot of, um, but that goes down to individual accountability. The fact of it is there are just so many damn indiscriminate breeders that they don't really care about the dogs. I mean, they just want to make some money. And look, I think every breeding program, serious breeding program at some point needs to make some money, but there's a right way and a wrong way, right? Do I want to make some money? Yeah, I want to make some money, but I want to make some money being known for breeding great dogs and doing it the right way. I want people to know that they can depend on me
Mhm.
and that and that I have a good product and I stand behind the product. That's how I want to make my money.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a way that can be done, and like, you know, sometimes you don't make money in the front door, you make it in the back door, and
Yeah.
I see a lot of breeders not even willing to think about it that way at all. And you know, if billionaires like Donald Trump or whoever else thought like that, they wouldn't be billionaires. You know what I mean? They know the art of the deal, and they know when it's time to give up a little because at the end they're going to make more. You know
Yeah.
that the quick buck is a poor man in anti-intellectual game. It's not a thinking man's. You know, it's not
Well,
a
it's a hustle,
yeah
and
yeah
and look, man, I mean, this breed probably wouldn't exist if there weren't a bunch of hustlers in the beginning, right? But um, I don't know. I just don't. That's just not me. I'm not a hustler. I'm not a hustler. I'm a grinder.
yeah
You
yeah
know. Well, we've been having a conversation on the on the podcast I was on Raul's. QBN podcast Monday night, and we were talking about genetics and a breeding, particular breeding strategy and things, and I made the comments like these things like this, right? If we can reach out and we can, we can change one person, right? More small steps were through educating, right?
Mhm,
And helping, we are slowly changing the breed, right?
mhm,
Just
mhm.
through the sheer transfer of information.
Yeah, I agree, and that's kind of like where what keeps me motivated to do these things, just put out a little bit of knowledge, for breeds that aren't very popular and people don't know about, to different schools of thought, or something like what's important to me is the bully breed world, you know. Um, yeah, that's what keeps me motivated. Do you ever think about? I think I talked about asked before, but I'll ask again anyway. I- is the UKC just not enough events around, because it seems like those style of dogs are kind of more of the structurally correct dogs.
Yeah, and that that's really the thing. They're just, they're not in this area, and there's a couple other registries that I may, depending on how things go, may end up supporting the WBA, and so we'll just kind of have to see. It's really all about kind of convenience, how far we got to travel, where we can show, that kind of thing, and but so far we've had good luck in the ABKC so far. Now we will, we'll. I mean, that's really the mother of all registries, right? I mean, you can win an ABKC, you can win in any of them, but so we'll see. We'll see how we continue to do, but there may come a time and place just based on sheer principle, that we end up going with another registry. Not going not going to really speculate on that decision right at the moment, because I mean, at the moment I'm okay. And the thing is uh you do see a lot of really, or you do see some extreme dogs and things at the shows and everything. But you know what? When it ends up at nationals, when they have, the best of the best is there. Ultimately, the nationals winner, from the standard class, the dog that wins best in show almost always comes from the standard class and is a well constructed, well moving, very proportional dog. So it hasn't gotten out of hand just yet in terms of the upper echelons of what really wins at the national level. You know what I mean? You're going to have pockets here and there, at a show where a dog, and a super extreme dog might win, or a dog that has certain issues may win, that kind of thing. But those dogs typically don't end up winning at nationals, and that's, I think, really when you measure a breed. Um, I think that's really the bar, right? When you go, you know, your very top level um, display, I guess. What really walks out of there as the winners. That sets the bar. That's what represents your breed. That shows people where you're at, right? Because face it, I mean, any show people can. I mean, you pay your money, you can take whatever dog you want, So you're going to see it all, Now some of those people need to have a talking to, and some of the judges, and some judges have, uh, you know, when they're in the ring, about maybe they need to rethink things and bring a different dog to the table, that kind of thing. I mean,
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
heard it's happened. I haven't witnessed it, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I think, it's such a new really, it's a new breed, um, and I guess there's bound to be growing pains, especially in today's time where social
yeah.
media is so prevalent, and this is basically how this breed has become so popular. It's because of the internet.
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, we are anymore, right? We're a microwave culture, right?
Right.
And by and large, very few people have patience anymore to do anything that takes years to put together, right?
Mhm.
Um, I mean, what's the I mean, what's the dropout rate, going to college,
Huh.
How many people actually went and started college and then never actually finished, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's people don't if there aren't immediate returns, so many people fail to just stick with it, right?
Right.
Learn, adapt, keep on pushing, right? They don't they don't learn that. They're not being taught nowadays. They're just being taught to be victims if they don't get a trophy right away, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Um, Here's a question I like to ask to bully people is even oldies and stuff like that, composite breeds.
Yeah.
If you were if you had all the time and the money and the space, if you were going to reconstruct an American bully, what would you use, and how would you go about it?
You've been the types of dogs I would use.
Yeah, and then like and then go on, like would they be health tested, all that kind of sort of thing, where what we're seeing.
I would probably still use the pit bull, the Amstaff, and then the Oldie,
Mm,
right? Oldie is a bigger, more athletic bull type dog.
mhm,
Um, I'm not super familiar. Like the difference between the English and the American Bulldog. Not really. I don't really know the difference between those two dogs.
American Bulldog is much bigger,
Bigger,
and it depends. It depends on what kind of an American Bulldog. They're a composite breed too, so
are they? Okay.
yeah, there's different styles. You got what they call the performance style, which is probably you know has maybe probably pit bull in it largely,
Yeah.
mixed with what they would a bulldog, what they call the white English bulldog or whatever it might have been.
Okay. Well, I
Um,
tell you exactly what I would do is I would first of all I would start out with an actual stud book, right? When I'm putting this breed together, I would have there might be, let's say, maybe 8, 10 kennels or something like that work together to start kind of creating um, and working together to create the breed, right? But we would actually have a stud book, would have a committee that would evaluate studs and approve those studs for breeding. You would have to go through a curing, right, an evaluation process, because they do that in Germany, they do that in in European countries, right? Um, and yeah, DNA testing, uh, at a minimum, uh, DNA testing for parentage verification, right? Um, would definitely do that because we did that. We had that requirement in horses when I bred Morgans, So you had to pull your little hair sample and you had to mail it in, right? Um, So yeah, I mean, at a minimum, those things, right? An actual stud book, you know, and when you got enough, then it was closed, right?
Right.
And but yeah, I would definitely do those things. I think it would provide much more consistency in the product that we're trying to provide. Because still, right now, there it's all over the place. It's still all over the place. After 30 years, it's still all over the place. I think that there are enough quality dogs out there that are American bullies that
Hmm.
there should no longer be any F1s allowed.
Okay.
Say, for instance, our really non-conforming dogs. Let's talk like the micro or the nano or even the exotic, right? I mean, the exotic bully, even though they've named it the exotic bully, is still registered as an American bully, right? Even though they don't conform to the standard in any way, shape, or form. So I think what should be done is for those types of dogs, kind of like the American Quarter Horse, they have what they call an appendix registry, right? So back in the day when quarter horse racing got really big, they decided to allow thoroughbreds into the quarter horses, but in order not to commingle that blood, they created an appendix registry. So you can have if I remember correctly, you can have a quarter horse that is up to 7/8 thoroughbred and still be an appendix registered quarter horse, right? And so that would be one way to still have it part of ABKC, but have it not even be allowed to intermingle with, right? The problem with registering dogs is, as we do it as puppies and we have no clue how tall those dogs are going to be, you know? Um, but, uh, you know, and with the way things have been bred, I mean, you can breed two pockets and still end up with a dog of standard height. Might only be one or two in the litter, but it can still pop up, right? Because the breed is still relatively young at, say, 30 years old, right? So still fighting a lot of variability, but the exotics should definitely be pushed into what I feel like is an appendix registry. But just my opinion there, because they're that small for a reason. I mean, that the dogs just didn't get that small by just sheer dwarfism. They used Frenchies, they used Boston Terriers, they used other small bull breeds, right, to make the dog smaller.
Right.
So
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a breed unto itself, or
yeah,
a type unto itself. I wouldn't consider it a breed, I guess, yet. Um,
and to their credit, they are trying to improve it and clean it up, right? But you know,
yeah, I've actually been following some people that are, a little more conscientious than most,
yeah,
and it's interesting to hear them talk. As me being kind of a small dog kind of guy, it's interesting to me if they can clean it up and create a proper little mini bowl, But
well, I look at it this way. I mean, my girl Maggie, she's an ABKC champion, but if she was a quarter inch shorter, she'd be a micro.
right, she'd have to go to the BRC, right?
You'd have to go to the BRC or some other
Mm,
place, right?
right. Right.
So I get people loving those little dogs. I do. And I do. I think they're and a lot of them are really cool dogs, right?
Mhm.
But again, I breed show dogs to the ABKC standard. So that's not my wheelhouse.
No, no, you can only have one wheelhouse when you got so many dogs like that. You can only
Look, it
focus.
takes so much to create. Um, you know, I mean, I run two lines, pockets and standards. It takes a lot just to do that without even thinking about doing something else.
Right. How do you think they got the pocket so extreme? I mean, they had to have been paper hanging.
Well, when you still allow F1s when your registry is not closed, but they've done it mostly. I mean, they've done it through paper hanging. I've not seen a pedigree with a with anything on it except an American Bully,
Right.
right? Now you can't tell me, and you can go and you can look at the dogs from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There's been a dramatic change in the way a lot of these dogs look, and they look a hell of a lot more like a bulldog than anything. So, you know, and look, that's we all know that at some point you can't create a breed with just two dogs. You can't do it with a pit bull and an Amstaff and get the size and the head and all the things, right? So we know there's bulldog of some type, you
Hmm.
know, in the breed, and we've I think for by and large we accept that. I think what is difficult to accept is just all of the lying. If you were just honest about the things that you did, especially when the registry's not closed, you could still, use an F1 dog,
Hmm.
right? So why lie about it?
Right.
But
Hmm.
they did. So, and when and the thing that makes it difficult is when people lie about what they've done, then it makes the breeding process even more unpredictable. You know, you think you're breeding one thing, and in fact, you're unknowingly breeding something completely different.
Yeah.
Well, and I tell people, look, I may irritate some people, but I'm stubborn enough that I'm going to breed my style of dog, and I'm going to keep dragging it to an ABKC show whether they like it or not. I'm going to pay my money. I'm going to take my dog, and because here's what I tell people, right? So a show is really for the evaluation of brood stock, right? I mean, for
Yeah.
breeding dogs. That's what we're doing.
Hmm.
That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Um, but I'm showing for the people on the rail, not for the judge and not for the show host, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that judge probably never going to buy a dog from me. What I want is I want the people who are at the show to see my dog and say, "Man, that's a nice dog,"
Yeah.
you know. And because for me, this do I love my dogs? Absolutely, I love my dogs. Do I want to make um, do I want to make a profit? Man, that would be great. I'd love to just break even, so everything else would just pay for itself.
Yeah.
Um, but I look at this as it's an intellectual challenge for me. Can I breed? My breeding strategies, do they work? Am I breeding a great dog? Um, but I'm super competitive, and because of my health issues, from all the back surgeries and everything, this gives me an outlet for competition, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
I can bring my dog, and I can show my dog, and we can be out there. And I look at shows, um, obviously as competition, but also strictly marketing opportunities. And when I when I categorize those expenses for the IRS, that's what I put it under as marketing.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think that's what interests me the most about shows is what goes on outside the ring. Um, I've never been to a show like an ABKC show, so I definitely want to experience just to see what goes on outside the ring more than I do what goes on inside. Um,
Well,
because yeah,
that's you meet other people. That's where you collaborate. That's where
yeah,
you make deals. That's I mean, that's that's where your business is conducted.
yeah, yeah. No, and yeah, to give the ABKC credit, they put on a good show from what I hear a lot of
They
times.
do. They do.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot of fun. It's a fun environment.
yeah, yep. Yeah, I just do you what are your thoughts on the Merle being kind of put out in the limelight here?
I don't I don't like it. I think it should be a again maybe an appendix dog or or something. And because here's the deal, I mean, 15 years ago you didn't see any Merles in the American Bully.
No,
Where'd it come from? Most
Lapahar,
likely came from the
Catalua,
Alapa
yeah,
or the
mhm,
Catahoula leopard dog, right?
yeah,
So my thing is this, and it's the same old thing. We think we're breeding a certain type of dog, and now people have brought in dogs that don't belong in the makeup of the breed. They lied, they cheated, they stole, they did whatever because they wanted to do their own thing. They had no respect for the breed or the dog or the organization or the people, and they just did what they wanted to do. And because it's cool, because a lot of people like that pattern, okay, well, they buy it. And so, I mean, I don't have anything against the pattern itself, but that pattern belongs on a Catahoula or an Australian cattle dog or something like that, where it originated from. It doesn't need to be on an American Bully, in my opinion, but it is. So then now at nationals, we're having this big showcase this year, right? And they're going to showcase the Merle and the Micro and what was the other category? Uh, Merles, Micros, oh, Extremes. Yeah, Extreme. So they're going to be an Extreme class Merle and Micro exhibition at nationals this year. Going to have their own ring, their own deal. Not sanctioned, no points, anything like that. But you know, I don't know.
yeah,
People will always say, well, you know, no breed is the same as it was 100 years ago, and that may be true, right? But it's not because they brought in dogs that didn't belong in the breed in the first place. Can you imagine what would happen if they'd done that with a German Shepherd?
mhm,
Right? I mean, it just doesn't happen. But it's the American Bully is almost like the damn Wild Wild West. We don't, my opinion, we don't have strong enough leadership at the ABKC level. But it's about dollar bills, yo.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think
You tell somebody no, they're going to go someplace else, right?
I interviewed a gal on my um, she's mainly a UKC. I think she does ABKC too, or BRC as well. But she does a lot of UKC stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and so her style of dogs are more like that. And she was really pushing for a national breed club to be able to, you know, kind of help dictate what goes on nationally with the breeds, not just in the UKC, but also the AKC,
Yeah.
or in this ABKC. But there's good and bad with that. What do you think about a national breed club?
Well, and I've talked to some of those people, and here's the thing. I think it's a great idea. I just don't think that, because with ABKC now the breed club, we do have a breed club now, and they are associated or affiliated with the UKC. Okay. ABKC will never allow it. They will never allow the dog to be dictated to them. They will never resign themselves to just purely a registry. They want they want control over every aspect of the dog.
Do you think that's because the president was there at the forefront, so he kind of takes ownership of it? I understand that part of it. That
Yeah,
that
I do.
that make that makes sense. But or do you think there's anything more to it?
You know, and I will say this. I've not been I don't know those people really well enough, haven't been in the breed long enough to really say definitively this is the motivation. I think it's, you know, I would like to say that I believe it's strictly uh monetary, you know. And look, don't misunderstand me. I would never say that, people who breed Merles, that breed micros, that they don't love their dogs. I know there are many that love their dogs. They just happen to love that style of dog. I just didn't feel like those types of dogs uh, belong in the sanctioned world of the American Bully.
Yeah, I what I've noticed too with some of the Merles out there with and the other bulldog breeds is that in the beginning they were pretty shoddy. They were badly bred, but I think enough of them got became motivated, and now we're seeing some of the benefits of their motivation, and they're breeding pretty good specimens. Now, are they are they the standard specimen? I mean, that's a debate for people who like you or who are in the ring, that are actually
Well, they're
or-
definitely they're definitely improving. I mean, there are some really good examples in terms of breed type uh, Merles that would, if they did not have the pattern, would still be very high quality dogs, and that's true. Now, still by and large, those are the exceptions currently and not the rule. But like anything, I mean, yeah, they're continuing to get better. Like I said, we used ran into this with with the Morgan horse. Okay. And I was on this side. We kind of had, so the Morgan kind of morphed. Was an East Coast colonial type horse, right? But as as the country grew, um, Morgans became part of cavalry, moved out west, right? Kind of some got crossed with Mustangs and things like that, and became more of a a Western type horse. And when they did that, they became a little bit more colorful. And so, I had a Palomino Morgan Stallion, and for a long time, colored Morgans did not. They did kind of lack the breed type that a traditional East Coast type Morgan uh, had, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but through years of work and things like that, um, the colored Morgan, if you will, got better and better and better. Stud that we had great breed type. He was, I mean, definitely. I mean, there was no questioning what he was. But there were a lot of working Western Morgans that resembled more, uh, you know, didn't resemble the old type style of what a Morgan was, And so there was always a that consternation of prejudice, if you will, of against the colored horses. So kind of the same we're talking about with the bullies with the Merle. That's the colored version, right?
Mhm.
It happens in breeds, and it's not something that's new. But I'm a traditionalist, man. I can't help it.
No, yeah, I get it. I
You know,
part of me is that way, in some things. Dogs, I think, well, to be honest with you, 6 years ago when I started this, I was much more traditionalist than I am now.
than you are now.
Yeah, I've it's interesting. Like, you would have said to me, I would have had a cocoa and tan French bulldog, I would have slapped you in the face. I said, no, no effing way. It's standard or AKC standard or nothing, because that's kind of the way I grew up. With
Right.
English bulldogs and stuff. But then today's game and today's world, if you want breeding stock, good luck getting one of those AKC standard dogs. It ain't happening.
I have one.
Do you? Yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're lucky.
They're getting
If
harder and harder to find, though, aren't they?
Yeah, and then finding, if you're not like in that world,
Yeah.
finding somebody that will take a chance on you is pretty slim to none.
Yeah.
That's the A lot of doors were closed right away with me. I even attempted to. I've always wanted a bull terrier, and my mom was when I was a kid. She was like, "Hell no, you're not getting a bull," because we grew up around American pit bull terriers
Uh,
because of my aunt and uncle, and so we would house sit or take their dogs, and they were real dogs, like, no jokes. We couldn't have them around other dogs, and they would kill any cat that came in the yard. Just they were hard to deal with when we were just these companion breed people. But
yeah.
um, yeah, just it, it's just hard to. Oh, so I was looking for the mini bull terriers, and they're absolutely, they will not even, like, I say, yeah, I want full rights. They're like, no, I don't do full rights.
Really.
Yeah. And I said, well, I told this one lady, said, I'm looking for a dog that could be a potential proper stud dog, because I'd like to be a part of the breeding process. And she goes, I don't do that. Are you crazy? I've worked so hard for this bloodline, blah, blah, blah. And she kind of scolded me, and she goes, I sell my dogs with spay and neuter contracts.
Mm-hmm.
The only people that I allow to have dogs that I keep for breeding are people I cone with, or sign a contract that they have to show their dog.
Right.
And I thought to myself, okay, that's why your coefficient of inbreeding numbers are around 40%,
Right.
because you guys aren't preservation breeders. You're stingy assholes. And to me, it doesn't make sense. I hate that word, preservation breeder. After 6 years, I'm going to say it. I hate that. It's not true. 90% of the time, the people say I'm a preservation breeder. No, you're not. You're either holding on to your bloodlines because of money and you're trying to maximize your profits, or you're just so uptight that you shouldn't be breeding dogs if that's the way it is for you. You just want those ribbons and you don't want anybody else to win ribbons off of your dogs. So
See now, so I guess I'm an asshole because I consider myself to be kind of a preservation breeder.
I think you are too, but you're not in that realm, you know what I
No,
mean?
but what? Because the way I look at that is, I try to maintain a very responsible inbreeding coefficient. But what I'm trying to do is that this thing has swung so far to the left with the bulldog that we're losing the bully. We're losing that in the middle, right? That we should have a dog that's between a pit bull and the bulldog, right? There's a space where the phenotype is right in the middle, right?
Mhm.
That's the American bully, and a lot of the bloodlines that we call them either old school blue, old school bloodlines, or I call them legacy bloodlines. Is what basically what I named them a couple of years ago. You find very few programs anymore that possess any dogs that are pure to those lines anymore, right? That um, and so I have a female that's coming uh, on the yard on a co-own next month, and she is 100% old school blood, right? And so I'll build a line through the breedings that we have planned. I'll build a line off of that. So I will always, because I did have a female like that, and she died in May before I could breed her, and so, but I will always have a line of old school dogs on my yard.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, from
If
the
for
outs
no other reason to outcross to and bring in those fresh genes, right?
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I kind of look at, because I have been paying attention. I kind of look. Do you think? Here's my theory that their um, refusal to admit to the English Bulldog being in the breed for so many years kind of has like taken the reverse effect in a way. It instead of saying, "Hey, this is a happy medium," and we used English because of its temperament and its drive is a little different than a pit where you're not. It's more conclusive to the look and the companion breed style that they were going after. I mean, the fact that they didn't start admitting to this until about 4 or 5 years ago is interesting, and I always that's what always repelled me from the American Bully, because you say you want that happy medium. That's what I liked. I like to assess when I looked at a bully, I say that's got bulldog in it. I'm a bulldog guy, so and I grew up around American Pit Bull Terriers and Amstaff, so I like those breeds too, and it's the perfect kind of mix between the both, and so that's why I always liked the bully. But then they were like, "Oh, there's no English bulldog." I'm like, "Oh, you're BS in here. So what does this mean? What is your foundation built on then?" But now that they admit to it, uh, I don't know. Like you said, it's gone so far to the other direction. I look at the extremes and I say, well, there's a lot more than just English bulldog into that. I mean, there's probably American and some sort of big old mastiff in there.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's in what's in some of them, you know. And
Mm.
for me, it's that, that big blocky head, but still with the tight skin, you know. But you know, and I like a muscular, bulky dog, but I mean, I like I mean, there's always certain guys the saying pit bull on steroids. Well, that's just meant to, say it's kind of a pit bull, bodybuilder kind of looking dog, right?
Mhm.
Muscled up, but still functional and athletic, and but a bigger, blockier head, tight skin. You get these dogs that have these big old loose floppy jowls hanging down and everything, and you go, I mean, you can tell it's like, bro, what? I mean, would you breed that? You just bred that bitch to an English bulldog and called it a bully? I mean, I can't I can't stand it. I can't stand to look at it. I just um I like my dogs with tight skin, tight lips, I don't know. I don't and bulldogs in their own way, they're kind of cute and things like that, but that's a bulldog, that's what they're supposed to be. But you take something as I felt like aesthetically beautiful as the American bully, because the first American bully I ever saw was a dog named Pokemon, and he was a blue dog. He had that blocky head but tight skin, tight lips, uh, muscled but not overly muscled. Just a very athletic looking, good sized dog. And I was like, man, that is a hell of a good looking dog. And so that's still what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. And you say you've been in it for a handful of years. What if you were to start today, what would you have done different?
I would have probably educated myself a little bit better, actually a lot better, um, before I started buying dogs.
Mm.
Um, and then I would have, um, instead of buying several dogs of good quality, but maybe not great quality. um, but I couldn't afford it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I so given where I was financially, I bought pretty good dogs to start with, and I used um, my ability to pick a dog out from my experience with horses and understanding conformation and stuff, right? Um, I picked out pretty darn good dogs for not a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? But um, I maybe would have, well, not maybe, I would have, instead of maybe buying three dogs, I would have just bought one great, royally bred, top quality conformation female, right? And then built my yard from there.
Mhm.
But you can, and you say that, but say you spend 10 grand on it, you save, and you take 10 grand, and you go and you buy that one female, right? Well, with our breed, you pretty much when you're buying a dog like that, I mean, you pretty much have to buy a puppy. I mean, you find very few, especially when I got started, you find very few females of breeding age that are of any quality, right? And then like that female that I had, I mean, she just turned 2 years old, and then and she passed away, and there was nothing genetically or physically really wrong with her. But something happened. Um, so you spend 10 grand on one dog, and then what happens if that one dog passes away before you can ever breed her? What happens if that one dog gets pyometra, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. So, but I would have probably just off the jump bought a little bit better quality dog, saved my money a little bit longer, educated myself a little bit better about the breed. Because the initial dogs that I bought, I don't have any of those dogs. I realized where I was at, and I basically had to start over, which
Mm,
is why I'm 4 years into it and I've only had two litters.
right.
You know,
Hmm.
so I always tell people start with the best female that you can afford, and then breed to the best stud that you can afford. You know, and build your program from there. You know, now
Yeah.
this now I say that there are a lot of great studs out there that aren't that expensive. They're just not super popular. So you have to decide, which road, you have to decide to yourself which road you want to go down. You want to try to be popular like everybody else, or do you want to build a program the way you want to build your program? So
Yeah, I think that I would want the long road. But that's my personality.
that's me too.
Because then I feel like I have more control, and then if I have victories, it's because of my dogs, and then my ability to pick good dogs and work with good people that aren't popular. Like I got one of my French bulldogs. He's phenomenal. The guy's a local breeder. He doesn't do anything with the show world. He's got great English bulldogs too that he doesn't breed. He's just got like 3 studs. He doesn't breed Englishes anymore. He's in his mid 60s, so
Yeah.
smaller dogs makes more sense to him. But he suffices the southern Missouri, southern Oklahoma, that whole area,
Hmm.
Arkansas. That's who buys his dogs, and
Hmm.
he's good with it. But he sells phenomenal dogs, and he looks for phenomenal dogs, and because he doesn't have a name, that he doesn't put himself out there, he's not charging $8,000 a puppy like if somebody with a name had his quality of dogs, they would. So when I went looking for somebody like that, and I have no name. So if anybody wants to use my stud, it's going to be about the long game to get his productions out there and see what happens with those. And he may always be a cheapo, but cheap but good deal.
Well, I made that comment. I think it was last week, Tuesday night, when I was a guest on the Tuesday night bully talk. I think it was more about, yeah, it was along those lines of like, I don't care. I will, I'm breeding to a very, I'm breeding my champion female Janie to a very non-traditional male, if you will, uh, early part of this next year. He's a big dog, but he's a blue brindle. First of all, blue dogs aren't popular, and brindle dogs really aren't popular. Okay, but 17-inch tall, 95 pounds, 26-inch head, but great conformation and great movement. Dog just floats, top line, never bounces. He's just, I mean, great moving dog, right? He's a champion, but he's an older dog, 6, coming up on 7 years old. Um, and he's all old school bloodlines, right?
Mhm.
Where my girl Janie, she's got a lot of old school blood in her, but she's also got some more modern blood as well. But so I'm taking it back old school with this dog. But this is my standard line. But I told him, I'm like, look, I don't care about the color. Um, I don't care about it. I don't care about the name. I said, when you go into the show ring, the judge doesn't know, your dog's bloodlines, and he probably doesn't really care what color it is either, right? I said, I'll make the damn dog's name if he's good enough. Now, if he's not, then we won't, right? But if he is, it's not going to matter. And so I'm just looking for the best dogs that fit the standard and and the bloodlines that I want to breed, right? Um, and that's all I care about. I mean, now again, I get back to, you know, um, will the market support that? You know, because as a breeder, and I mean, unless you have unlimited resources, I mean, you have to be able to move those puppies at some point. You can't keep them all. So, but I'm like this too. I mean, if I have to give them away in order to breed and keep the dogs that I want to incorporate into my breeding program, then I will do that. I won't let that stop me because um, at some point, then the quality of the dogs become undeniable, right? And then the money will come, right? Or it won't, and then I have to, then I have to get out of the game, and the game will have beaten me, and I'll have to say, okay, well, what I wanted to do and do right by the dog and everything, it didn't work out.
Yeah, I'm
Hey, I got
right
to
there.
be able to live with myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% like resonate with what you said for sure. Yeah, 100%. It's like um there when you're dealing with livestock, it it's a crapshoot, and sometimes smaller type folk who have a limitation. There's a time that you have to turn away and say, oh, well, I gave it my best shot. But
Yeah.
I think the way you're going about it and what you said is the only way that you could like shoot for the stars. You know what I mean? Build it from literally build it from the ground up. I told my wife the next Frenchie that we get is going to be Brindle because it's almost like a fuck you to
Right.
the no pie no Brindle crowd. So I get that mindset. I really think I am going to try to get a Brindle, but it might be a little while. But yeah, because I really want to like promote it and say these are great dogs. You know what I mean? No matter what color it is, a good dog is a good dog.
Now, is that a standard color that's allowed? Is that a standard color,
Yeah.
Brindle? It is, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
Thought so.
Hmm.
I don't know all the colors of the Frenchies. The AKC standard colors. I don't know. I don't know all of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know all the other colors. I had to get a genetic test, and I still don't. I just know what it says. I don't know the no. I don't know the codes like
Right.
But
Yeah, I
um,
had a guy ask me about that here the other day. Was asking me about color, and I'm like, look, bro, I got to tell you, I'll be honest. I don't give a shit about color. Just
yeah,
don't. I don't study it.
yeah,
Um, I know a guy that he understands genetics very
hmm
well, and he breeds color stuff. He would be much better to help you than I would, because I never look. I have my favorite colors. I love a blue dog, or
Mhm.
or gray, whatever you want to call it. Right? We call it blue in our
Mhm.
breed,
Mhm.
but that was the first bully I saw. That was my, it just hits me. I love a blue dog, um, but when it comes to picking, retaining, buying a dog, color's the last thing that I worry about.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, like, I had 2 different colors, and I picked the more, I think it was a lilac with tan points, but I picked his brother, the chalk, because it just fit. The other one was too big, it just was too big in a small package, and so I got
Right.
the dog that fit me, more than anything despite the color. So, yeah, I just think if, you could walk your own path, and get victory, that's a bigger win.
Well, yeah, isn't that more rewarding than just doing? I'm not going to use the word what everybody usually calls it, but uh, you know, I mean, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, are you? I mean, I, I, I mean, I understand people wanting to emulate people who are successful.
Mhm.
And when it comes to dog breeding, you can do that. And people say, well, you can use the same exact stud that I used, but you won't get the same result because you don't have the same female. And that's very true.
Mhm.
But you see a lot of these guys that, they're doing the popular sire syndrome thing.
Yeah.
They, whatever dog's winner, whatever dog's popular, those are the ones that are being bred. And there's always the argument, well, they're popular for a reason. They won, they did this, they did that, you know. So, you can look at it a lot of different ways, but there are a lot of people that they really don't know much about dog breeding or breeding in general, any genetics, anything. And so they have to rely on that methodology in order to even have a chance,
Right.
you know.
Yep. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
and I guess, I don't know. If that's what you got to do, then me, I prefer to work hard, educate myself, and build something, build a, we had a conversation on another live here about 2 weeks ago. We're talking about how few people are actually building or maintaining true programs these days. It's more like I talked about. That's where I said that the microwave breeding, right? Just breed two dogs, boom, sell the puppies. There's no true, you cultivating the right lines. Uh, breeding your own outcross on your own yard, so you don't have to go outside. Line breeding and retaining those females for your yard, so your yard will be more consistent. These kinds of things. There's very few people nowadays that really look at this long term and look at building it that way. Have you ever heard of Lloyd Brackett and Brackett's formula or the black hole theory? From a breeding standpoint.
Uh, yeah, I think I have, but, remind me real quick.
So it really focuses on the importance of the female lines, and
Right.
kind of the theory is that from a genetic contribution standpoint, there are actually, if you number a pedigree, three generations back, and you number them 1 through 30, right, and you
Mhm.
can circle these certain numbers, and these were called black holes, where basically they played no genetics, and they played no significant genetic role, right, in
Hmm.
the contribution. Um, this guy Lloyd Brackett was kind of the father of the American German Shepherd. Um, produced 90 champions in 12 years, kind of thing, and he had this formula, the way that he went about doing things, and you know he did a few things different in terms of pedigree analysis, puppy evaluation, health, things like that. But it really kind of focuses on the importance of the female lines and how to breed those female lines. So
Yeah, that'd
it's
be a great
a
subject.
good topic of conversation.
That'd be great. Yeah, let's do it. I'll
But
I'll
no, man, I'm always
yeah.
happy to if I can contribute to furthering uh, some transference of knowledge, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I do kind of like those kinds of conversations and the ability to talk to people that are, passionate or thinking, not, I guess, in a lot of ways outside the box, even though it doesn't seem like it should be,
Yeah.
um but yeah, for sure.
Well, I promise you, if you asked 10 breeders of today, you might only find one that even knew who Lloyd Brackett was.
Yeah, I would probably say not very many, not very
Yeah.
many. Maybe
Yeah.
your serious AKC people that have been around a long time, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely not in the new school bully breed world.
No.
Yeah. Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
Not at all. So, those kinds of things. I mean, so the black hole thing was really the genesis of it was around the fact that Secretariat never produced any great racehorses, right?
Right, right.
But
That's
his but
right,
his daughters did,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Yep, now I remember from that story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a great subject.
Yeah. I think so too. So
Yeah.
and the you know and like I'm having to do really myself, and not that Maggie being a champion is not a great female and a great foundation to start from, but she had a couple of real areas of improvement that's needed, right?
Right.
So how do you take that female and then improve it and drive that still to the female line, so you do have a great female line to produce through, as you're breeding your program, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
anyway,
All right. Well, thank you, and I'll keep you posted on when I get this up and going, and you can share it and do whatever. But
sounds good, Sean. I appreciate you.
yeah, no, it was good talking to you. Thank you very much.
Take care of yourself.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.